Is Izvestia with us? Yes, good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. Meets Izvestia. We have two questions concerning that Ursula von der Leyen called Russia to show interest in regulating the conflict in Ukraine. What is the assessment of the Foreign Minister of Russia of the statement of the head of the European Commission on the need to show that it's willing to show its willingness for peace with due account of Russian position, which it showed on many occasions on this settlement? Our position, I mean the position of our country on the Ukrainian settlement, has been mentioned on numerous occasions at the top level and does not need any additional signals. Moscow has always been steadfast and open for the equal dialogue. And I believe that equality and equal dialogue is the basis of all this. Russia has always shown interest for mutually beneficial solutions, and as for the European Union, we see that they do not want to do so. I've just cited today that while speaking about peace, they were preparing for war, not to preserve peace, but to warm up and fire up tensions. And this proves that they are lying and that their ideology is flawed, because I don't see any sense in cooperating with them if they use ultimatums, claim unilateral concessions, trying to take over Russia. I believe that if we talk about the strategy, I think there is nothing wrong, but being cunning is good. But on the other hand, the lies they use, this is the manipulation based on the crimes, extremism, terrorism, and so on. And these are quite different things. There's no interest of Europe in settlement of the conflict because Europeans have not shown any desire to engage in a direct and honest dialogue with Russia. The day before yesterday, yes, there was a press conference between the foreign minister with his counterpart from Namibia yesterday. They discussed some awkward recalls of President of France, of Emmanuel Macron, saying that he wanted to make contacts with Moscow, although he scrutinized Moscow previously, but in December he said that he was willing to establish new contacts or to resume contacts, but it all ended up to some assertive rhetoric and so on and so forth. The European Union has already forgotten the European diplomacy. They do not want to discuss the settlement of the Ukrainian crisis, but they are committed to torpedo any Russia and American initiatives in search for peaceful solutions. They are wiping up Russophobia and anti-Russia narrative. And it is proved by the digits and by the figures themselves, and I'm referring to their aid, to the funds sent to Kyiv. This is a kind of not even a military aid, but a financial aid and terrorist aid. The European Commission reported that it supported Ukraine since the start of the special military operation, and by beginning of January 2026 reached 193.3 billion euros, so over 193 billions of euros. Unspeakable numbers. And 69.3 billion euros were allocated for the Ukrainian army. And as for the rest money, we've got to know from recent documents showing complete corrupt nature of the Kyiv regime. Today, I've already mentioned that for this money, using this money as well, they send children to Turkey, as they call it, rehabilitation, and children there in Turkey come back being pregnant.
Within this mission, more than 85,000 Ukrainian fighters were trained on the territory of the member states of the association. They are making cannon fodder out of them, and the British and the French continue to lobby the aggressive plans for the security guarantees. They should understand that this idea is unacceptable for Russia, but they stubbornly do that in attempt to attempt any constructive, peaceful settlement. Is this an effort to done to ignore that? I answered this question already. Is Sinhua with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. Sinhua is here. With the introduction of visa-free regime, the tourist flow between Russia and China is growing, but some Chinese tourists care about the mobile service, accessibility of payment, and the registration during their trips to Russia. What measures does Russia make to make the presence of the foreign tourists more comfortable? And what tracks does Russia and China can strengthen cooperation? As you noted, the tourist flow between Russia and China is gradually growing. With the introduction of a visa-free regime, the number of mutual trips has significantly increased, and in 2025 exceeded 2.4 million. We are happy to receive guests from China and other countries in the world. We create all the necessary conditions for their comfortable presence. We are developing new tourist routes. We create modern infrastructure. There are no reasons to be concerned about the things that you mentioned. On the websites of our foreign missions in China, one can find all the necessary information to be prepared for the trip. In any case, for those who come to another country, there are things that are different from those they're accustomed to. And I'd like to say that when I come to China, certain inconveniences happen to do with payments, for example, because cards unfortunately do not work because Russia was de-SWIFted. Unfortunately, we have to find alternative options. This inconvenience is manifested in various situations in various countries. We have to find ways out. Our countries should work to minimize inconveniences for tourists. And despite the fact that for many years people have been using cards, now I come to China. Unfortunately, I mostly go there on business trips, not for tourist purposes. If there is a need to pay for something, if I have to go somewhere outside the hotel, I have to do like our parents did. I have to change money in the exchange offices. And of course, this does not reflect the modern technological achievements. This is an opportunity to see what we can do for the tourists from our country so their presence is more comfortable. But let us finish on the positive note. Both in Russia and China, there are a lot of wonderful places, and I'm sure that learning more about traditions and culture of each other will facilitate strengthening humanitarian foundation of our relations, our friendship. I'm always happy to meet our Chinese friends. Welcome to Russia. We have a wonderful tradition. It appeared a couple of years ago, but it has come to be an important part of this important part of our year. I mean, the celebrations of the Chinese New Year. It gives an opportunity with love and hospitality to show these traditions in Moscow. Moscow is an open platform for interesting cultural experimentations, and this experiment was very successful in my opinion. Traditionally, Chinese New Year takes place in Moscow, and it's a huge event. We will be happy to see Chinese tourists in Russia as well, and Russian tourists in Moscow at the events to do with the Chinese culture. Equally as wonderful, the Russian Muslims holiday takes place in China, and I think you know that already. I think it is also a wonderful tradition here. I just named a few, but from many, many more of them. Thank you very much. Thanks to you. You know, we have exchanged cultural years that were declared. They are over. They were 2024 and 2025. But they set a wonderful example for mutual humanitarian and cultural enrichment and implementation of a lot of projects. So I think it will be followed up on. There were events within the framework. They were in the interstate calendar, within the agreement. But also there were events, the public events, as a response to this. They became a part of this huge agenda. And I think that people understood, both here in Russia and in China, that it is interesting, it is beneficial. It is aimed at mutual enrichment in terms of culture and knowledge. And I think that this tradition will live on to hold major, or probably not that major, events in our countries. Thank you very much. Thanks to you. Is China Media Group with us? We have one question. You already commented on the situation with the Greenland and the US in the first part of the briefing. Nevertheless, Donald Trump recently said that the US is going to introduce 25% tariffs on any countries that trade with Iran. What does Russia think about this, the use of unilateral sanctions against sovereign countries? Are we going to change our cooperation with Russia's cooperation with Iran in key spheres, for example, in energy? This question was commented on in detail by our Minister Sergei Lavrov. He said, and I'm not going to cite, I think that you got to know that, and I will provide a link to this quote in the text of the briefing. Russia does not recognize, does not accept that, and will continue with this approach. Our cooperation with Iran is beneficial. We are committed to cooperation in various spheres, including in energy. We will continue developing cooperation with all interested states based on our national interest, we won't be guided by the threats and blackmail of third countries. Thank you. Is Rita with us? Do you have any more questions, Rita? Yes, indeed. Good afternoon. Rita is here. We have questions still, though you partly commented on them. Question 1. It's about Greenland. Donald Trump is quite stubborn in saying that if the US won't take control of Greenland, it will be seized by Russia or China. It is not about the activities of Russia or China, but about the intention. What can you say about these words? First of all, I already commented on them. Second, why don't you want to ask the US president? Third, why don't you ask this question to all the European Union and the Western Europe? Only because Russia and China are mentioned here. I believe the main participants of this drama should be covered. In the first place, ask them what's going on with international law, rules-based world order. This is hilarious. I mean, indeed. We already talked about it today. I am absolutely sure that when they divided Serbia and Kosovo almost 20 years ago, a little less than 20 years ago, all the Westerners after they did not go to the UN Security Council, though they started a parade of recognizing Kosovo as a sovereign state, the whole EU proudly added one more star to their flag. But I think they did not think that they will forestall that. But why does this situation any different? Probably they thought that they will be saved by because of the loyalty of the US. Look what the Russian president said back then. That's when Vladimir Putin addressed the Munich conference, security conference, and the government actively commented on the situation around Kosovo with illegitimate annexation of it from Serbia. This was a precedent, and this can come to anyone, but the EU thought otherwise. They are untouched. They said that they thought that Russia was threatening them. They couldn't even imagine that they would be taken hostage of this scheme that were endorsed and designed by them. But let them enjoy it. Eat what you prepared. Don't choke. Thank you for this commentary. I have another question. It is quite multidimensional, but I would say that the previous one was not very specific. The president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, who was kidnapped by the US during the holidays, became the second president after Bashar Assad, the head of state that is friendly to Russia, that was toppled with force. Does Moscow see this as an assault on its positions at the international arena? Is it afraid of the mass protest in Iran? But please, let's pause here. Let's deal with this first. Venezuela, Iran, Russia, the US, and so on. Let's start with this part. if we are concerned, if we should be concerned about anything. But you said that it is a generic question. Well, if we are to be concerned, we shouldn't be concerned individually, but collectively. But we should be concerned by the destruction of international law. Some national vested interest shouldn't play a role here. Steps are taken every day that change our personal plans, our public plans. Every second something is going on. But such actions destroy the international legal system. What does this mean? Let's say as it is. Just like with Kosovo, that was seized, that was taken away from Serbia illegally. The strategy is now applied to Greenland and Denmark. Inside this coalition, I'm not talking about the global majority here, within the collective minority, with the Western minority, they don't have a pillar, the basis, so that these processes are stopped in the legal framework or to be settled legally. All those who said that the situation in Kosovo was unacceptable, these countries have something to rely on, and now we're talking not about the violation of somebody's agreements, union commitments, and so on. We are talking about the global undermining of the legal system. When there was an outrage about the situation in Crimea and Donbass, that ostensibly Russia acts illegitimately, we refer to international law that said about the will of nations, the right for self-determination, and thus these references are not only theoretical, they are practically applied. This happens within the international law, probably as any other law. The provisions of the international law provide for various interpretations. There's no doubt about it, but this is a basis. Now the territories are divided, and countries are divided without any reference to any international legal provisions and norms. That's what I'm talking about. That's what is going on with the interference in internal affairs and coup d'etats. No references to international law, the UN Charter, the conventions and treaties signed by anyone. They're not cited, they're not referred to. Listen to Kaja Kallas, as you mentioned Iran. She said that they need, and Ursula von der Leyen said the same thing, that they need to increase the level of sanctions pressure to make people in Iran even more turbulent, which will lead to coup d'etat. And they said that directly. The interests of all those who believe that international law should be respected, the rights of these people are violated. But the international law was a sphere that gave a chance to the world, to countries, to negotiate, to agree with each other on legal grounds, to bet not only on force, on the possibility to trick someone with force and some other things, and to rule the world. Without law, there is no democracy. Today, this is a threat to everyone who believe that democracy is the best system, because democracy can be applied not only within states. Democracy, as it is declared, including in the West, the perfect system. It should be demonstrated in the international.
So how can we talk about democracy in international relations where there's no legal system? Democracy is based only on laws. Because in order to define quorum, majority, or consensus, you need to have a law, not just an ability to count. Yes. If you don't mind, the second part of my second question. If the tensions are escalated in Iran, what help can Russia provide to Tehran? I believe that I answered to this question in my comment to your Chinese colleagues. Thank you very much, Madam Zakharova. So let's move on. Is France Press with us? Madam Zakharova, good afternoon. We have a similar question. So the most important that it would be similar because it coincides somehow with the previous question and not because you got some questions from somewhere. No, I think that's not possible. We have another question, maybe a surprise question. We had it today. In Niger, there is an outcry about the nuclear fuel that was allegedly, with uranium to be exact, ended up in the territory of airport in Niamey, in the capital. And Russia, in general, spoke out loud that it was interested in joint exploration of uranium in Niamey. Is Russia ready to get this nuclear fuel? With due account that this topic emerged just during the briefing, and I need to have a look at what is playing out right now, and if it's so relevant, I can give an answer and then publish it, and we can answer you personally. Thank you. Is Anadolu with us? Yes, good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. Good afternoon. You've answered 2 questions, but we have a third one. We've just seen film Nuremberg. Can you share your assessments on the image of Russia? It's an American film. No, I haven't seen this movie. No, I haven't seen this movie because there are a lot of such movies, but I haven't seen this exact movie. When it was released, I think it was in December. No, I have not seen it. I will try to do so and come back with my comments. Thank you very much. Is Al-Maidin with us? Yes, good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. I think you have answered to our questions, and thank you very much. Is Rudaf with us?
Thanks a lot for your time. And I have 3 questions, but you have already answered one of them. And I will start with my second question. Over the past year, the Damascus forces or their affiliated groups have reportedly attacked Druze, Alawites, and Kurdish neighborhoods in Aleppo. There are reports that these attacks might continue in other areas. What's Russia's position on these attacks, particularly the most recent one targeting Kurdish neighborhoods in Aleppo?
I would like to say that, of course, we were concerned about the developments playing out in Aleppo and this escalation, and we prioritize ensuring security of civilians and their protection. Of course, attacks on them is not tolerated by Russia. We are persuaded that the path towards a long-term, sustainable and robust normalization in Syria lies through negotiation with the participation of all ethnic communities of the Syrian society. And we believe that it is of principal importance to respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Syria. And the recent events confirm that the relevance of the tasks of the agreements on reintegration of the Euphrates region signed in March 2025 between Syria and the Syrian Democratic Forces leadership.
Is that in your discussions with Iraqi and Turkish officials, have you addressed security cooperation? Is Russia seeking to develop security cooperation with them, particularly through the sale of Russian weapons and new technologies?
We are in a close contact both with Turkey and Iraq on a wide range of issues of mutual interest, including regional and country security. So let me end up with this, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. We are moving on. Is Pakistan media, Doni News Pakistan, with us?
Pakistan, thank you for taking my question. I have one question today. Iran says that the recent unrest inside the country is supported by the United States and Israel. There are also reports that the United States may be preparing some kind of action against Iran. Does Russia think that the United States may try something similar to what it did in Venezuela? How does Moscow view the current situation around Iran?
Let me start by the second part of your question, and I've answered it today on many occasions. And we have statements published at the website of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and our Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov expanded on this topic just a day ago. As for the first part of your question about the attempts of the U.S. against Iran, here I don't have any comments, because these questions should be addressed to the Americans. And we believe, and let me reiterate, that the toppling down of regimes cannot be tolerated by the modern community. Moreover, taking into account, if we are speaking about the respect for the UN Charter, here it's about the sovereign state of Iran with powerful democratic values and traditions, respecting democracy and history, their own history. But we see the Western countries, you've named the United States, you've named Israel, but you didn't name the EU, resorts to all possible tools in order to settle the situation and to affect and influence Iran, its leadership and its nation, to topple the current government, and are very open in their aspirations. I don't know if there are other plans. You need to address these questions to them. I think it's crystal clear that they weaponize economy, social and economic situation in order to pursue illegitimate coup d'etat. And that's what they are doing. I believe that no country in the United Nations has a right to resort to these tools and techniques if they respect the UN Charter. Thank you very much. Let's move on. Is Newsroom with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. It came out that many questions are interconnected today. The US President Donald Trump, I don't insist on your question, but it's important to us. Thank you. The President of US, Donald Trump, under pretext of ensuring security from Russia and China, said that he wants to establish control in Greenland, viewing it as a strategic interest of US. What is the prospects and perspective of Russia of this? Can it be lead to the dissent in NATO? So let us reflect on that a little bit. Neither Russia nor China claimed anything like that. There are no facts that can prove these accusations, and that's my first point. By the way, Russia and China recently have been claiming that they want to develop this region and relations with this region. For our part, it's a natural interaction. We are a part of the polar region. China has technological capabilities along with financial and humanitarian technologies. They have good production capabilities. China has ambitions to come into this region in terms of economic, financial, technological power. So I have a question. Speaking about and saying that the United States want to preserve this region, the Greenland, or any other neighboring region, and to defend it from any other claims, aggressive claims of Russia or China. I can say that we have no such intentions. It means that this region, they want to put it beyond, withdraw it from cooperation with Russia. And why? Because it's not a competitive player, I believe. I believe that our ways of cooperating with third countries and other ways to have business, I think it will be more interesting and attractive to these regions because we provide guarantees building on the international law. We respect international law and international treaties. We do not withdraw from treaties by signing just shortly before that with another country some agreement. We are not fooling anyone, withdrawing without any warning. We are responsible. Russia is a responsible country, international player, which means competitiveness, fair competitiveness in resolving differences based on peaceful solutions, on the equal dialogue, expecting the same attitude from our partners. That's why I believe this is all playing out, because this pattern of behavior and pattern of cooperation on international arena suggested by Russia and China is indeed a powerful and robust basis for the development, the internal development, international contacts, and all they want is to discredit our country, using all these illegitimate toolbox available to them to oust us from this media and public space, and that's what we call neocolonialism. And that's the way it is. But the problem is that the West Europe, EU, believed that if they were members of NATO, if they have connections with the United States because of their membership, their belief, blind belief, and they went wrong. Thank you very much. Thank you. Is Balt News with us? Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. The intelligence services of Russia said that the Constantinople Patriarch of Bartholomew is obsessed with the idea to oust the Russian Orthodoxy from the Baltic states, trying to distance the Lithuanian, Latvian, and Estonian Orthodox Church from the Moscow Patriarchate, trying to attract its priests. What are the aims of the Constantinople Patriarchate, and is it independent in its aspirations? Does the Ministry of the has any ties with the Moscow Patriarchate, and does it has anything to do with the church diplomacy? Let me expand on the last part of your question. Of course, the comment that was made by the intelligence service of Russia is a comprehensive comment. So we do not need to make our own comment, but nevertheless, let me speak up. I think that the Constantinople Patriarchate has been long before in the zone of interest of the Western states, and being very active in the countries which are trying to restrict in the rights of the Orthodox believers who do not want to tolerate with the imposed neoliberal values, who are against some non-canonic ideas. A lot of studies have been published on this topic. We believe that Constantinople acts in frame of political technologies supporting the so-called church opposition, dealing with some political dirty job, not rather than traditional beliefs such as rituals, traditions, philosophy, science. I think they all put it into oblivion. These are